Hello, everyone, everywhere. This is Pastor Robert Thibodeau. Welcome to your Freedom Through Faith video minute for today, which is March 8th. Today, we're going to continue our study and the study of the prodigal son in Luke chapter 15, verses 11 to 32. I was going to talk to you today about the older son, the good son, the son that stayed home to make sure the business continued to run and prosper. But instead, because we covered the introduction, we covered the younger son who squandered it all. We covered yesterday the father and his role and representation of all this, and how he wanted to protect the younger son, was constantly looking for him and praying for him, and was so happy that he had returned. And I wanted to talk about the older son today and talk about the celebration and how he refused to go in. But to help develop the story a little bit more for you, I wanted to talk to you, and I mentioned this before, about a couple of minor characters here. And the minor characters that hardly anybody talks about is the people in town and in the citizen in a far country that the younger son had joined himself to, that was disrespecting him, told him go feed the pigs. I want to talk to you about those two elements because they actually build up what we're going to be talking about probably tomorrow with the younger son and the climatic events that all surround that. When the younger son went into this far country and wasted all his money and all of his wealth with riotous living, had women hanging off him, and had all these friends that wanted to hang around him. As long as he was paying for everything, he had friends out the wazoo. But when the money ran out, women were no longer interested. His friends had left him, and he was left destitute, homeless, living on the street. And so he joined himself and that word join means he was clinging to. In other words, he was pestering this guy to give him a job. That he needed a place to stay, he needed a job. You're one of the guys who are still working. You still have your business going in the famine. I need a job. I need to be able to eat. So the guy sent him just to get rid of him. He knew he was a Jew. Nobody in that area, were supporting the Jews because they didn't like them to begin with. And finally, this guy just told him, go feed the pigs. Here, you want a job? Let's see. You said you'll do any job. You just picture this. The guy's like, I'll do anything you want. I'll do any job you have. So the guy says, Jew, pigs. All right, you say you'll do anything, any job I have? He goes, oh, yeah. Go feed my pigs. To the Jews, that were listening to Jesus tell his story, that was a slap in the face. How far this boy had fallen. He had disrespected his father, disrespected the family, disrespected the town folk, then sold all of his inheritance and then went and coercing with women and drinking alcohol and partying and doing all these immoral things. And now he goes and feeds pigs. And then Jesus takes it even one step farther than that and says he actually fought the pigs for the pig slop. He got down in it. He's seen where they were, at least the pigs were eating leftover something. And he got down in there and started pushing the pigs aside and down in the slop trying to get something to eat with the pigs. To the Jewish listener that Jesus was talking to, this was about as low as anybody could ever go. I mean, the only step lower is actually to die and go to hell. All right? I mean, this kid had fallen as far as you could go concerning Jewish society. And then we'll leave that. We covered that a little bit in the younger son, but I just wanted to emphasize that the citizen that he joined himself to so disrespected him. That's the job he told him to take. And that actually built up the value of the story Jesus is trying to tell. The moral of the story, I guess you could say, is no matter how low you get, God still loves you in the end. That's the purpose Jesus is trying to build up. And to the Jewish listener, this boy was beyond repentant. He was beyond forgiveness. There's no way that he could get any lower. He has to be a complete outcast forever. I mean, he is that bad. Now, let's shift to the second emphasis here of the town folks. They are required in Jesus' story, and they have a role to play. The town folk, they know the family. And when I hear this story and I look at it in this context, I kind of remember it to the old Bonanza show, where in town everybody knows the Cartwright family, right? And that's kind of how I vision this. Everybody in town knows the father. They know the business. They know the boys are running the business and helping dad out. And it's kind of like being a preacher's kid, all right? You are required and expected to act in a certain way. And when you don't do that, dad gets the counseling stick out and teaches you a lesson. And finally, this boy is growing up enough where he doesn't want to do it anymore. He's rebellious. He's angry at everything. He hates his life because he feels if my family has money, why do we have to go work in the field? We got hired hands. But dad's trying to teach them how to run the business. But, a young son, he just, you know how they can be. Amen. I'm going to leave it at that. But the town people have a role in this story. Their role is to represent, they are actually representing the Pharisees. They are representing the Jewish culture. And everything, every nugget Jesus gives means something special to the listeners. They are, in this story, the listeners are the townspeople in this story. So Jesus has brought them into the parable itself. And when they hear how far the boy has fallen, they would have basically in that Jewish culture, they would disown him. They would declare him as legally dead. So nobody would ever even talk to him anymore. And that's their thinking, and they can agree with the town folk in this. And then when the father comes running through town and welcoming the son back, to them, they're taken aback. What? The father would do something like that. And then when it says, okay, we're going to have a celebration. Everybody's going to come to my house tonight. We're going to, we're barbecuing the fatted calf, and we're going to have us a party. Well, in that culture, if someone was holding a big festival like that, they were, I won't say obligated to go, but expected to go. So now the whole town is part of this celebration. And they're part of the celebration of welcoming this wayward boy back into the family fold. That's the purpose of the celebration. We know it relates to the wedding supper of the Lamb, okay? That's what's going on here. And now tomorrow, now that you have that background, you understand what's going on, they would have shunned this boy if the father would have just, he was expected to just leave him at the gate, let him sit there for about 30, 40 days and never even talk to him. He'd come out, ignore him, come back in, ignore him. That's what the boy was expecting. That's what the town was expecting. But the father didn't do that. Okay, he did not chastise him. He did not reprimand him. He did not humiliate him publicly. Instead, the father took all of the expected abuse. And that was so shocked the townsfolk. But now they're going to be part of the celebration, a part of the welcoming home of the wayward boy. Now, that sets the stage now that we can close this out by talking about the younger son. And we'll get into him tomorrow. Oh, I love this story. And I hope you're enjoying these videos because I'm enjoying telling them. Until next time, this is Pastor Robert Tiller reminding you that when you do what you're required to do and you're expected to do, and that you do over and beyond that, you can't help but be blessed in all that you do.